Portland police have yet to make any arrests a full week after a group of 100 rioters marched through the city's downtown, trashing local businesses, lighting dumpsters on fire in the street, resulting in at least $500,000 worth of damages. So are we on the verge of another round of Antifa riots around the country? Here now is Oscar Odom, retired NYPD detective and former first deputy sheriff commissioner. Great to see you. Thanks for coming in again. It's my feeling if you give in to criminals, they always ratchet it up. That's why you never give in to criminals. And that's what's happening here. They have given these rioters, these criminals, the opportunity to do things that they can't fight against. If they try to stop them, these officers are going to be arrested for assault.
Absolutely. It's like a revolving door. The thing is this, they have to put up or shut up. The data doesn't lie. With the over 1,000 shootings, homicides up over 300%, you have to let the police officers be police officers. And that's why you have so many officers retiring, officers resigning, officers going to other police departments, other jurisdictions, and also picking up other jobs. And the public are the ones who suffer because of this. And the reason why is because they are not letting police officers be police officers. And at the end of the day, the public are the ones who suffer from this.
So, Oscar, where is it going to go from here? As I say, the criminals always will try to ratchet up. They're never satisfied with just a certain level of allowing them to do something. If you give in to that level, they will ratchet it up. What's the next step for the criminals?
Right. Well, absolutely, because what happens is the politicians need to be held accountable for this type of behavior, because the thing is, at the end of the day, they represent these people and they are charged with the task of ensuring their public safety. But the thing is, a lot of them need to come from behind their desks, get rid of their security details, and go out there and see the needs of the public. The thing is this, at the end of the day, if you really go to a court and you go to a trial, you will see that people will vote to convict people of doing certain crimes. So the key is prevention and intervention before detention. So if they prevent this stuff and they have some sort of intervention, we don't have to worry about the detention. But as long as they let people go crazy and do whatever they want to do, all chaos, this is what is going to happen. And like they say, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And this is what is taking place now, and it must be put to a halt, must be stopped.
But it's not. In fact, the shoplifting epidemic is crisscrossing the country. You see it in San Francisco. You see it now in New York. They have these stupid rules where you're allowed to steal $1,000. There's something okay about stealing $1,000. And again, the criminals are going to ratchet up. It ain't going to be long before they take more than $1,000. And it's also not going to be long before somebody is really hurt. We already had one shopkeeper who was killed. I mean, this spawns violent crime as well as larceny.
Oh, most definitely. And not only that, the businesses are fleeing. They're shutting down because they're losing money and they're trying to recover due to the pandemic. The criminal justice system is like a revolving door. You lock them up and they beat you out before the paperwork is processed. And until people come to their senses and realize what is taking place, then finally, hopefully, people come to their senses so that we can address these issues. Because otherwise, you have police officers there, you're not letting them be police officers, and the public are the ones who are being charged with this, and they are the ones who are suffering. The data doesn't lie. Over 1,000 shootings. People should be able to do that. Dead bodies do not lie. When you start adding up the numbers and you start counting, a body is a body, and you cannot lie about the body. So let's be evidence-based and data-driven and make sure we begin to stop this. People have to start getting tough on crime. It's too much lax and too much is going on, and these numbers indicate what is taking place that is causing so much chaos, and you have innocent bystanders who are also suffering from this type of behavior.
And
innocent.
I think people are also getting fed up with these politicians who promote the idea of defunding the police when they have a security detail of their own. We have Cori Bush, Congresswoman Cori Bush. She spent about $130,000 in just the past 6 months on her own private security detail. The money, of course, comes from her campaign fund. I don't know, a lot of people who contributed $5 to that fund realize it would go to her personal security. So they believe in security when it comes to themselves, but not in others.
Most definitely. You know, they're hiding behind that. And like I always say from the movie A Few Good Men, they sleep under the blanket of the very freedom that we provide, and then they have the nerve to question the manner in which we provide it. I tell them, get rid of your security detail, walk around. If you walk the walk, you know, you're doing all this talking the talk. Let me see you walk the walk, just like your constituents.
Yeah, Oscar, we don't have much time, but I got to talk about Chicago and their vaccine mandate. You have 3,200 cops, that's a third of the entire police force in Chicago, who are refusing to let their superiors know whether they've been vaccinated or not. Can Chicago survive with a 1/3, a 30% cut immediately of its police force?
No way. They're having a hard time with everybody there with the different laws, the different shootings that are taking place in Chicago, and also the restraint on the officers. It's going to be very difficult times. And if they do that, if you think there's chaos now and the numbers are rising, there's really going to be chaos. I think at this point they need to find a way to maneuver around that or adjust to that, like some of the places are having that if you don't have the vaccine, you just have to come in and take a test. But they shouldn't do that to get rid of the officers until this is ironed out, because there's too many problems and too many people are dying.
Yeah, well, the deadline was yesterday. They've extended it for a week. They're negotiating now with the union, with the police union, so there may be a resolution like the one. Let's pray for the citizens of New York, of Chicago. There is one. We have the same problem here in New York, by the way. Oscar Odom, good to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.